When the arrogant Wei confronts RMC, he gets instantly defeated by Chanma. Wei realizes he has no way to stop his descent as he plummets toward the ground headfirst. Without hesitation, Chanma points his spear sideways and dashes right before Wei, striking his staff just before he hits the ground. The spectators watching are confused as to why Chanma targeted the staff instead of simply taking it and running away. Roshi looks both pleased and impressed, realizing Chanma is attempting to destroy Wei's staff, rendering his life savings worthless. The system alerts Wei that his staff's durability has dropped to 1 and is on the verge of destruction. Directing void spheres toward Wei, Chanma coldly asks if he still enjoys bullying others. As the void spheres collide with the staff, it shatters into pieces, and the spheres hit Wei, dealing immense damage. With a sickening thud, Wei crashes hard onto the ground. Walking toward the defeated Wei, Chanma leans down and retrieves a black VIP card from his possession. Holding up the card, Chanma reveals it to Wei and smugly asks if he knows what this is. Wei, visibly bewildered, hoarsely asks how Chanma could possibly possess a black VIP card. Before Wei can say more, his head falls back, and he passes out from the sheer force of the encounter. The spectators murmur amongst themselves, unclear about the significance of the black card, until one of them reveals it's second only to a red card. That same individual informs the crowd that Chanma is actually the top graduate from Abe province, with an unparalleled SSS rank potential rating. Roshi, pointing angrily at Chanma, demands to know why he didn't use the black card earlier when he already had it. Chanma pats her head affectionately and explains that he wanted Wei to take the bait, which is why he withheld the card initially. Blushing furiously, Roshi turns away, warning Chanma in a sharp tone never to touch her head again. The receptionist from the front desk appears, apologizing profusely to Chanma and presenting him with a gift box as an apology. The receptionist, clearly terrified, worries that his earlier disrespect towards someone of Chanma's stature might cost him dearly. Opening the gift box, Chanma discovers Sun and Moon Demon scales, perfect for upgrading his flowing light thousand-bladed umbrella. Handing the receptionist a list of materials, Chanma instructs him to notify him if any of the items appear in future auctions, and the receptionist agrees eagerly. With that, Chanma and Roshi walk away as the receptionist bows repeatedly in respect. Walking alongside Chanma, Roshi fidgets nervously with her clothing, lost in deep thought. Noticing her unease, Chanma asks if something is bothering her or if she has anything on her mind. With tears welling in her eyes, Roshi reveals that she will be returning home for a while and asks if Chanma will miss her. Reluctantly, not wanting to hurt her feelings, Chanma admits that he will indeed miss her. Out of nowhere, Roshi kisses Chanma on the cheek, leaving him utterly stunned. Turning to leave, Roshi warns Chanma not to seek out any other girls while she is away. Touching the spot where Roshi kissed him, Chanma blushes slightly, caught off guard by her sudden gesture. The next day, Chanma spends time in an alchemist's lab, crafting potions and gaining 10,000 experience points, allowing him to upgrade to intermediate herbalism. Smiling with satisfaction, Chanma remarks that the 80% experience boost is remarkable and feels the 400 gold spent renting the lab was well worth it. That evening, he ventures to the outskirts of Thunder City, specifically Nightfall Town, where level 25 elite monsters emerge after sunset. Equipping his umbrella weapon, Chanma readies himself to hunt any monsters that cross his path. Transforming the umbrella into a staff, he summons his army of monsters and orders them to gather every creature in the town. Following his command, the summoned creatures scatter in all directions, rounding out monsters. Chanma moves forward and halts at a strategic point, preparing for the next phase of his plan. He commands his summons to converge at the central plaza and keep the monsters occupied while he advances toward the final room. Minutes later, Chanma leaps from a building window with spirit monsters chasing closely behind him. Landing gracefully on the ground, he hears the monsters crash violently beside him. Tossing a large net over the spirit monsters, Chanma traps them and activates his voyage boots while drinking a swiftness potion to increase his speed. Meanwhile, Chanma's summons have successfully attracted hundreds of spirit monsters, encircling them tightly. Chanma drags the captured monsters to the plaza and throws them into the center of the gathering crowd. Standing behind the spirit monsters, Chanma summons a massive ice wall to seal their escape. With the monsters trapped, he uses a grappling gun to pull himself to a safer height above the battlefield. From his elevated position, he summons a quantum bomb and hurls it directly into the heart of the spirit monster horde. The bomb detonates with a massive explosion, unleashing a devastating wave of energy that engulfs every monster in its range. As the dust settles, it reveals that all the spirit monsters have been annihilated. Satisfied with the outcome, Chanma clenches his fist in triumph, relishing the results of his strategy. He notes that stealing the quantum bomb from the old temple was worth it, as it boosted his experience gain by 40%. The defeated spirit monsters begin to revive slowly, repeatedly, hinting at the cyclical nature of their existence. Chanma summons the quantum bomb again, preparing to farm the freshly respawned monsters for additional rewards. Chanma is resting atop a tall structure, enjoying the shade provided by a tower-like design as he takes a break. Summoning the system, he examines his stat page and discovers that he has impressively leveled up to 25 in just a single night. After distributing his newly earned stat points, he now boasts 79 strength points, nearing his agility stat of 107 points. Leaping from the building, he soars downward, determined to continue grinding for experience before reporting to his new university in 4 days. After an entire day dedicated to honing his leatherworking skills, Chanma successfully accumulates 10,000 experience points, achieving the intermediate level in leatherworking. Later, he visits a library and requests the intermediate leatherworking book, eager to upgrade his skill immediately. Just then, a man approaches Chanma, praising his talent for achieving intermediate rank in both alchemy and leatherworking. The other patrons in the library recognize the man as Gao Jin, the president of the Profession Association in Thunder City. Unaware of Gao Jin's identity, Chanma directly asks who he is. Gao Jin smiles and introduces himself, extending his hand and inviting Chanma to join the Profession Association. Turning his back to Gao Jin, Chanma bluntly refuses the offer, shocking Gao Jin with his audacious tone. Before the crowd, Gao Jin offers Chanma a representative position and a 15% discount at all shops on the Apocalypse continent. Chanma, intrigued by the unexpected offer, acknowledges its value but still refuses, leaving Gao Jin stunned by his dismissal of such a lucrative opportunity. Persisting, Gao Jin explains the additional benefits Chanma could gain by joining, but Chanma rejects the offer again, remarking that a representative position isn't worth his attention. The crowd murmurs among themselves, deeming Chanma arrogant and shameless for dismissing such generous terms. Gao Jin points out that with just 2 intermediate secondary professions, the offered deal is already exceptional and claims he cannot improve the terms any further. Disheartened, Gao Jin turns to leave, appearing regretful about failing to recruit Chanma. However, Chanma announces that he has more than 2 intermediate secondary professions, stopping Gao Jin in his tracks. Gao Jin, visibly shocked, demands to know if Chanma is bluffing or telling the truth. Gao Jin then declares that if Chanma truly has 3 intermediate secondary professions, he will be promoted to the position of elder and receive a 20% discount in all shops. Realizing the potential advantage, Chanma summons a blank skill book to prove his claim, leaving the onlookers astonished. The blank book confirms Chanma's expertise in blacksmithing, further baffling Gao Jin and the crowd. Gao Jin, still in disbelief, admits that Chanma's accomplishments in blacksmithing surpass his own. The two then leave the library and chat as they continue on their way. Pointing toward the association headquarters, Gao Jin leads Chanma to the building, promising to grant him the Elder's emblem. On the way, Chanma asks about the relationship between the Blacksmith Association and the Profession Association. Gao Jin explains that the Blacksmith Association separated from the Profession Association due to their pride in their trade. Gao Jin secretly hopes that Chanma's talent might someday help mend the rift between the two organizations. They soon arrive at the Profession Association building and enter a conference room where Gao Jin introduces Chanma to the gathered members. Gao Jin excitedly announces that Chanma will join the association as an elder, leaving the members visibly stunned. Qin Yongchang, an advanced alchemist and current elder, opposes the decision, arguing that elder positions should not be given away lightly. With a sharp tone, Chanma mocks Yongchang and the other elders, comparing them to frogs in a well for speaking without understanding his skills. Outraged, Yongchang calls Chanma an arrogant brat and challenges him to prove his worth through their tests instead of demanding the position outright. Maintaining his composure, Chanma accepts the challenge and proposes adding stakes since many members oppose him. Cui Feng, another elder, supports Chanma's suggestion and declares that if Chanma passes the test, those who opposed him must offer him a reward. Agreeing to the terms, Chanma allows the opposing members to choose their test questions, boasting about his mastery of multiple professions. Chanma lists his 6 intermediate ranked professions, including mining, alchemy, and blacksmithing, leaving the members stunned. Yongchang, bewildered, turns to Gao Jin and demands to know why he didn't mention Chanma's extraordinary abilities earlier. The room falls silent as the elders struggle to decide how to test someone with such overwhelming skills. Sensing their hesitation, Chanma suggests a reverse challenge, offering to quiz them with 7 questions, 4 of which they must must answer correctly to win. Gao Jin approves the idea, allowing Chanma to proceed with the unconventional test. Chanma asks increasingly difficult questions, causing the elders to grow pale as they fail to answer even one. Laughing nervously, Chanma realizes he has won the challenge effortlessly. The defeated elders, including Yongchang, sweat profusely, recognizing Chanma's unmatched talents. Gao Jin rewards Chanma with the Fruit of Ability, a priceless item worth thousands of gold coins. Accepting the gift, Chanma bows and thanks Gao Jin for the generous reward. Turning to the elders, Chanma reminds them of their promised gifts, further showcasing his audacity. Speechless, the elders realize they have no choice but to keep their word. Later, Chanma strolls through a forest, wearing the elder's emblem, a cross-shaped locket, around his neck. Checking his inventory, he marvels at the treasures he collected from the elders, each one a priceless artifact. With only 3 days left before his university begins, Chanma decides to leave the Apocalypse continent. Suddenly, the system announces that upgrading 6 secondary professions and obtaining the elder's emblem has advanced his transformation system to level 4. The system also unlocks ability 2, allowing Chanma to transform the effects of crafted potions into passive skills. All of Chanma's passive skills, including Gatling Gun, Wide Sweep, Ripple Slash, Void Sphere, and Critical Hit, are upgraded to level 4. Realizing that advancing his secondary professions strengthens his transformation system as well, Chanma is visually pleased. Chanma's current level is 25, and his battle power totals an impressive 26,021. Reviewing his stats, Chanma feels satisfied with his progress and decides not to rush into transforming his new ability just yet. He reasons that since he has only recently learned intermediate alchemy, there is room to improve his recipes, so transforming his ability now might lead to regrets later. Ready to return, he approaches the portal and extends his hand toward it. Upon arriving at Jiang City College, Chanma notices that the premises are unusually crowded with students despite it being summer vacation. One of the students spots Chanma and excitedly shouts to inform others of his presence. In an instant, Chanma is surrounded by enthusiastic junior students, many of whom are clamoring for his autograph, and feeling overwhelmed, he disappears in a puff of dust and smoke. He quickly retreats behind a nearby bush to hide and catch his breath. However, he is startled when someone suddenly appears behind him and calls out to him. Turning around, Chanma realizes it is Yen Min and asks why so many extra students are outside and acting so excited. With a short laugh, Yen Min explains that these are new students who have come to register because of Chanma's fame. Yen Min then turns and invites Chanma to follow him, saying they have prepared some gifts for him. As they walk, 2 party poppers suddenly go off, covering Chanma's head and face in colorful confetti. Led by Yen Min, the staff and teachers have gathered to bid Chanma farewell and express their gratitude to him. Brushing confetti off his hair, Chanma thanks the teachers but asks them not to repeat such surprises in the future. Yen Min produces a property certificate, explaining that the college pooled funds to purchase a place for Chanma to stay since he will soon move to the capital for university. Along with the property papers, Yen Min hands Chanma plane tickets, a boarding pass, and any other documents he might need. Holding the property papers and documents, Chanma cheerfully thanks the teachers and Yen Min for their generous support. Yen Min urges Chanma to visit them whenever he can and assures him that the college will always stand behind him, no matter where he goes. Once again, Chanma expresses his gratitude to the teachers and Yen Min, bowing respectfully before them. As he turns to leave, Chanma promises that when he returns, his name will resonate across the entire nation of Xia. The next day, Chanma arrives at Oracle University and confidently walks through the main entrance gate. A girl from her class notices Chanma, observes his physique, and assumes he must be strong, deciding to approach him for his contact information. Almost immediately, Chanma finds himself surrounded by a group of girls, all eagerly trying to get his information. Feeling slightly embarrassed, Chanma explains that he is only here to report and asks if anyone can guide him to the right place. A blonde-haired girl grabs Chanma's hand, startling him, and insists she will show him around the university. Watching Huaningyu take Chanma away, the other girls fume silently, annoyed at being ignored. As she walks with Chanma, Ningyu explains that students officially graduate after reaching level 30 and completing their second awakening. She further explains that new students are grouped by level. The first group is level 15 to 25, the second is level 26 to 28, the third is level 29, and the fourth year is for level 30. Arriving at the reporting station, Ningyu instructs Chanma to insert his ID card into the machine, which will assign his dormitory based on his details. Chanma follows her instructions, and the machine instantly recognizes him, reading out his information aloud and surprising Ningyu with the revelation that he is level 25. Other students nearby become curious about the level 25 newcomer and move closer to get get a better look at Chan Ma. Smiling, Ningyu remarks that Chan Ma has been assigned to a luxurious dormitory and offers to guide him there since it might be hard to locate. However, Chan Ma politely declines her help, saying he can find the dormitory on his own. Turning to leave, Chan Ma's dismissal causes Ningyu to clench her fists in anger at being ignored. Chan Ma eventually arrives at Area Z of Oracle University and decides to rest under the shade of a large tree. While resting, he notices an old man nearby practicing what appears to be martial arts. Observing the old man's movements, Chan Ma suspects he might be unwell based on his physical condition. The old man notices Chan Ma, pauses his training, and asks if he is a new student at Oracle University. Chan Ma confirms that he is new and mentions that he arrived that very day. The old man asks for Chan Ma's room number, and Chan Ma replies that it is room 001. Growing more curious, the old man asks for Chan Ma's name, and Chan Ma answers truthfully. The old man resumes his training without further comment and allows Chan Ma to leave. After Chan Ma departs, the old man's expression softens into a knowing smile as if he recognizes Chan Ma. Just then, a girl carrying a bottle of medicine approaches the old man and scolds him for secretly training instead of resting. Meanwhile, at the Hall of Secret Realms in Oracle University, the new students gather nervously, discussing the upcoming entrance exam. Lei Junjia, the Education Administration Director, seems pleased as he notes that the university managed to recruit 2 provincial champions, Chan Ma and Shoujia. A teacher from the magic faculty confidently predicts that Shoujia will outperform Chan Ma in the entrance exam because Chan Ma is merely a vagrant. Teachers from the War and Command faculties join the discussion, expressing interest in recruiting Shoujia into their departments. Meanwhile, at the exam's entrance portal, Shoujia confronts Chan Ma and arrogantly declares himself superior. Uninterested in arguing, Chan Ma dismissively states that he does not even know who Shoujia is. Feeling disrespected, Shoujia clenches his fists and vows to prove that he is the best. Maintaining a cold tone, Chan Ma remarks that Shoujia is boring and not worth competing against. Being disrespected by Chan Ma, a vein twitches on Shoujia's temple as he snarls, declaring they will see who is superior. The entrance exam is set to take place in the secret realm called Death Monastery, with the currently accessible areas being the graveyard and library. However, due to Chan Ma's hidden class, Spellbinder, the highest difficulty setting is automatically activated, unlocking 2 additional areas, the weapon vault and the chapel. Chan Ma's first destination is the graveyard, which is teeming with monsters, and he readies himself to take them down. Meanwhile, at Oracle University, the teachers are gathered in front of a massive screen mounted on the wall that displays the leaderboard. The teachers are discussing the exam location and speculating on how the students will overcome its challenges, including the final boss, who is at level 28. Their primary focus is on Shoujia, a level 23 student whose current progress shows he has completed 40% of the graveyard. However, they quickly notice that Shoujia is not ranked first on the leaderboard, as Chan Ma has claimed the top position. Seeing Chan Ma's rank, the teachers shift their allegiance and begin cheering for him, even discussing how their faculty should recruit Chan Ma over Shoujia. One teacher observes that Chan Ma has not exited the exam despite clearing it, and upon reviewing the screen, they realize he is progressing through the highly difficult weapon vault. Noting that only 2 areas were supposed to be available for the exam, and seeing Chan Ma clearing a restricted area, some teachers argue that his exam should be terminated. Addressing his peers, one of the teachers pleads with them not to make hasty decisions, asserting that Chan Ma is not someone who acts without a plan. He then turns to Director Lei for guidance, who announces he will head to the president's office to determine the next steps. Back in the secret realm, Chan Ma navigates the military weapon vault, where the mobs have an average level of 30 and are incredibly strong. Activating his phantom form, Chan Ma conceals his presence and strategizes to clear the location in one go. One by one, Chan Ma gathers all the explosives scattered throughout the military vault into a single spot. As part of his strategy, he waves his hand to draw the attention of the mobs. As the mobs charge toward him, Chan Ma summons an ice wall to trap them all in one place. Once the mobs are gathered near the mountain of TNT, Chan Ma points his staff at the pile and casts a fireball. To shield himself from the blast, Chan Ma summons a thick ice block just before the massive explosion shakes the area with tremendous firepower. Back at the university, Director Lei stands outside President Ling's office and requests permission to enter. The old man who had previously spoken with Chan Ma President Ling grants Director Lei permission to report. Upon entering, Director Lei informs the president that a student has cleared the exam in 25 minutes and is now tackling restricted areas instead of exiting the secret realm, prompting Ling to ask if the student is Chanma. Hearing President Ling name the student outright, Director Lei is momentarily stunned. Director Lei explains that they don't know how Chanma managed it, but he now has access to the military weapon vault, and other teachers are calling for him to be punished. With a swift motion, President Ling sends a golden disc-like object flying through the air. Director Lei looks on in horror, realizing that Chanma has been granted the invulnerability privilege, which can only be issued once every 5 years. President Ling states that Chanma, as an exceptional student, deserves this privilege and should be carefully nurtured. However, Ling resolves internally that while Chanma will be given leniency this time, he will face consequences if he becomes too reckless in the future. Back in the secret realm, Chanma finishes defeating all the mobs in the weapon vault within just 8 minutes. Standing before massive doors, Chanma prepares to face the powerful boss hidden behind them. Slowly, the doors part and a blinding light spills out, casting Chanma's shadow dramatically onto the ground. The boss is revealed to be Harold, a level 25 elite weapon master with a staggering 18,000 HP. Chanma cautiously approaches Harold, aware that although Harold only has one skill, Whirlwind, it is devastatingly overpowered. Summoning his staff, Chanma conjures a void sphere as he prepares to launch the first attack. Aiming his staff at Harold, Chanma sends the void sphere hurtling toward him. The sphere explodes upon impact, dealing Harold 801 points of damage. Leaping into the air, Harold declares he has been waiting for a true challenge before lunging at Chanma with his weapons raised high. Equipping his voyage boots, Chanma dashes backward just as Harold initiates his deadly whirlwind attack. Like a spinning top, Harold begins whirling around, moving erratically through the room as Chanma skillfully evades him. Once Harold's whirlwind goes on cooldown, Chanma seizes the moment to switch to his gun and fire at Harold. This assault cuts Harold's HP in half, pushing him into a berserk state and triggering his limitless whirlwind. Now spinning at an even faster, hurricane-like speed, Harold becomes far more aggressive and difficult to counter. Choosing not to dodge this time, Chanma resolves to confront Harold head-on, unleashing physical attacks despite the relentless spinning. Pausing mid-battle, Chanma drinks a potion to heal his injuries and restore his HP. Immediately after, he resumes his offensive, attacking Harold without pause. Sticking to his strategy of attacking and healing in intervals, Chanma gradually gains the upper hand. After a prolonged and grueling fight, Chanma lands a final, decisive strike with his spear, defeating Harold. Exhausted but triumphant, Chanma notes that his HP has dropped to just 1,500 by the end of the battle. The system congratulates Chanma, awarding him the invulnerability privilege, which will protect his original body even if he is defeated in the secret realm. Though curious about who might be assisting him, Chanma decides to set the thought aside and focus on clearing the next area. Back at the university, the observation screen shows that Chanma has achieved a 100% clearance of the military weapon vault, leaving the teachers stunned. Upon discovering that President Ling granted Chanma the invulnerability privilege, the teachers are astounded, given that Chanma is merely a new student. One teacher points at the screen and exclaims that Chanma has already entered the chapel and shows no signs of stopping. Director Lei, staring intently at the screen, remarks that he is eager to see how Chanma will handle the terrifying final boss. Pushing open the massive doors, Chanma steps into a grand hall and notices several figures kneeling on the ground, their bodies concealed by dark cloaks. The Death Monastery has two final bosses, Scarlet Commander Mograine, seated on his throne, and his wife, who resides in a room behind him. Activating phantom form, Chanma becomes undetectable and stealthily moves into the dungeons, eliminating the guards stationed there. Knowing he will face two level 28 bosses simultaneously, Chanma ventures to the dungeon to rescue someone who can aid him. That person is a man who is currently shackled and chained within the dungeon. Approaching the prisoner, Chanma addresses him as Fairbanks and asks if he seeks revenge. With a bruised face and hollow eyes, Fairbanks weakly inquires if Chanma can truly help him. With a single swing of his sword, Chanma severs the chains binding Fairbanks, granting him freedom. In Chanma's previous life within the game, Fairbanks was a hidden NPC who could either be slain for rewards or saved to become an ally in battle. Chanma chooses the latter and, using a priest's basic skill, begins healing Fairbanks's numerous injuries. Within moments, Fairbanks feels his wounds vanish and his body restored to a stronger, more youthful state. Bowing Kneeling before Chanma, Fairbanks expresses his gratitude and pledges his loyalty, while Chanma instructs him to stay hidden and only intervene upon hearing the second boss's voice. Having secured Fairbanks's help, Chanma returns to the hall, deactivates phantom form, and is immediately spotted by the disciples kneeling on the ground. As the disciples lock their gaze on him, Chanma dashes toward a nearby pool of water, with the disciples chasing after him. Diving into the pool, Chanma submerges himself, prompting the disciples to follow him into the water. Seizing the opportunity, Chanma leaps out of the pool onto solid ground, leaving the disciples trapped in the water. Pointing his staff at the pool, Chanma casts Frostbind, instantly freezing the entire pool and immobilizing the disciples within it. Witnessing such brilliant execution of tactics and skills, the teachers back at Oracle University are left utterly astonished. Back in the fight, Chanma summons a blazing ball of magic above one hand while conjuring two void spheres with his staff in the other. He then launches both attacks simultaneously at the frozen disciples, dealing massive damage and eliminating them instantly. Observing Chanma use two void spheres within 5 seconds, the teachers are bewildered, as the skill's cooldown is supposed to be 15 seconds. With the minions defeated, Chanma steps into the room of the first main boss. Holding his spear tightly, Chanma cautiously approaches Mograine, who remains seated on his throne. As Chanma draws closer, Mograine's eyes ignite with a fiery glow, and he suddenly rises, entering his battle state with Chanma as his target. Charging forward, Chanma swings his spear at Mograine, landing a powerful strike that sends the boss flying. While Mograine remains airborne, Chanma leaps after him and unleashes a flurry of attacks, dealing significant damage. The teachers are shocked to realize that Chanma has managed to crowd control Mograine for 30 seconds, allowing him to execute multiple attacks. With each strike, Chanma carves dazzle marks onto Mograine, resulting in the generation of numerous void spheres surrounding the boss. Extending his arm, Chanma commands the void spheres to bombard Mograine, delivering a devastating series of explosions. Defeated, Mograine crashes to the ground in a small explosion, just as Chanma gracefully lands nearby. Mograine's wife, the Saintess, enters the room and, upon seeing her defeated husband, unleashes a barrage of circular energy waves. The waves strike Chanma, rendering him immobilized and unable to move for 60 seconds. Lifting her massive staff, the Saintess begins chanting a ritual to resurrect Mograine. Before the ritual can be completed, Fairbanks charges into the room wielding a large hammer. With a powerful swing, Fairbanks strikes at the Saintess, forcing her to evade and interrupting the resurrection ritual. Glaring at the Saintess, Fairbanks vows to make her pay for the years of torment she inflicted on him. Meanwhile, Chanma remains immobilized, with 10 seconds left before he regains movement. Turning her attention to Chanma, the Saintess angrily accuses him of freeing Fairbanks and vows to destroy him. As the Saintess prepares to cast a spell at Chanma, Fairbanks lunges at her again, hammer raised high. At that precise moment, Chanma's immobilization ends, allowing him to move freely once more. Taking advantage of the Saintess's distraction with Fairbanks, Chanma charges at her from behind, transforming his staff into a longsword. Meanwhile, the teachers remain awestruck at Chanma's flawless strategy, noting how he fights the bosses as though he has done it countless times before. Smiling widely, Director Lei expresses his admiration, stating that Chanma is living up to the high expectations set by President Ling. At the same time, Xiujie emerges from the secret realm and smugly announces that he is the first to finish. Laughing confidently, he believes he has secured first place in the entrance exam, even mocking Chanma for still being inside. However, noticing that the teachers are ignoring him, Xiujie begins to suspect something is amiss. Turning to look at the observation screen, Xiujie sees Chanma battling the final bosses in the chapel and collapses in shock, stammering in disbelief. After defeating the priestess, Chanma sets a record by clearing the Death Monastery in just 1 hour and 40 minutes. President Ling looks proudly at Chanma's achievements, feeling hopeful that Oracle University, which has been in decline, will now regain its former glory. At that moment, his granddaughter, Ruoshi, enters the room carrying a tray of medicine for him. As Ruoshi sets the tray on the table, President Ling picks up the bowl and asks how long she plans to stay, to which she replies about 10 days. Taking a sip from the bowl, President Ling teasingly asks if Ruoshi has found someone she likes now that she's grown up, making her blush furiously. Sweating nervously, Ruoshi stammers that she's not interested in such trivial matters just yet. Picking up Chanma's student file, President Ling remarks that he has found a good match for Ruoshi, noting Chanma's handsomeness and talent. Suddenly, Ruoshi turns on her heels and runs away, shouting that she can take care of herself and will find someone on her own. Smiling to himself, President Ling concludes that Ruoshi must already have someone in mind, judging by her flustered flustered reaction. Exiting the university building, Ruoshi lets out a sigh of relief, feeling like she just dodged a bullet. However, President Ling shouts down from his office window, reminding her to be careful in the apocalypse as it's full of dangerous people. Remembering the awkward moment with Chanma in the well, Ruoshi mutters angrily, calling him a scoundrel, her cheeks turning red. Blushing deeply, she warns herself that Chanma had better not forget about her, or he will face her wrath the next time they meet. After clearing the Death Monastery and setting a record, Chanma emerges from the secret realm, casually brushing dust off his slightly torn clothes. The moment he steps out, teachers from various faculties swarm around him, each trying to win his favor and recruit him. Meanwhile, Shojia, still collapsed on the ground, watches Chanma with loathing, seething over how his moment of glory was stolen. Director Lei raises his voice, calling for the teachers to settle down and be quiet. Turning to Chanma, Director Lei congratulates him on making history and grants him the freedom to choose any of Oracle University's 4 faculties. Chanma pauses in thought, realizing that he has no idea how the university operates or what lessons each faculty offers. Smiling calmly, Chanma responds that he hasn't made a decision yet and requests permission to attend trial lessons at each faculty before choosing. The 4 faculty representatives eagerly agree, each promising to give Chanma the best trial experience to entice him to their department. In the university dining hall, Lin Bing, a third-year student and head of the disciplinary division, dines with Ningyu and invites her to a concert, holding 2 tickets. Silently observing Lin Bing, Ningyu notes to herself that while he comes from a good family, he isn't exactly her type. Her attention, however, drifts to someone sitting a few feet away, and she begins contemplating rejecting Lin Bing's offer. Realizing it's Chanma, Ningyu excuses herself, telling Lin Bing that she has some matters to attend to and can't go to the concert with him. Standing as well, Lin Bing responds graciously, saying he understands and suggesting she can join him next time. However, Ningyu takes a seat right next to Chanma, leaving Lin Bing bewildered as he realizes her interest lies elsewhere. Fixing her hair subtly, Ningyu initiates a conversation with Chanma, prompting him to bluntly ask if she wants something. Smiling warmly, Ningyu compliments Chanma on earning the special privilege to attend trials at all faculties, but Chanma merely nods without looking at her. Seeing Chanma's indifferent attitude towards Ningyu, Lin Bing becomes visibly irritated. Approaching Chanma, Lin Bing demands that he stand up, clearly attempting to assert dominance. Pointing a finger at Chanma, Lin Bing warns him not to disrespect Ningyu simply because he performed well in the entrance exam. Feeling annoyed, Chanma slams his fist onto the table, causing his food tray to fly into the air as he loudly declares that Lin Bing is being too noisy. The tray lands squarely on Lin Bing's face, leaving the room in stunned silence. Watching from nearby, Shojia marvels at Chanma's audacity to hit the disciplinary division head with a food tray on his very first day. Lin Bing stands frozen, seemingly too shocked to react or even speak. As his expression twists into rage, Lin Bing clenches his fist and charges at Chanma. However, when Lin Bing throws a punch, Chanma effortlessly sidesteps, dodging the attack entirely. Lin Bing's momentum causes him to crash into a table, shattering it into pieces. While Lin Bing sprawls face first on the ground, Chanma simply walks away without looking back. Furious, Lin Bing shouts after Chanma, vowing to get his revenge. Later that day, a class is about to begin, with dozens of students seated and the teacher standing at the front of the room. The class belongs to the battle faculty, and the teacher, Gan Yanghui, appears displeased to see Chanma attending as an observer, perceiving it as disrespectful. Chanma sits with an expression of utter boredom, clearly unimpressed with the lesson. He finds teacher Gan's explanations to be outdated and overly conservative, lacking innovation or depth. Deciding that the battle faculty isn't for him, Chanma slams his book shut and stands up to leave. Seeing this, Teacher Gan demands to know where Chanma thinks he's going in the middle of the class. Ignoring him, Chanma continues walking up the stairs and heads for the exit. In an instant, Teacher Gan teleports in front of Chanma, glaring down at him and demanding a valid explanation for his disrespect. Shrugging nonchalantly, Chanma responds with a sly grin, saying that Teacher Gan himself is the reason. Chanma boldly states that Teacher Gan is stuck in outdated methods and has been leading students astray with his teachings. Teacher Gan, visibly trembling with rage, struggles to contain his anger after hearing such disrespect. Two students in the classroom stand up in defense of Teacher Gan, shouting at Chanma to apologize immediately for his insolence. At that moment, Lin Bing enters with two disciplinary division members, accusing Chanma of trying to leave class early and summoning him for an investigation. The two other members position themselves on either side of Chanma, ensuring that he does not try to resist or escape. Lin Bing, smirking confidently, looks forward to teaching Chanma a lesson for what he perceives as arrogance. Teacher Gan dismisses the situation, instructing the disciplinary division to escort Chanma out and make him understand his place. Clicking his tongue in annoyance, Chanma mutters under his breath, calling Teacher Gan a pig-headed fool. Enraged, Teacher Gan shouts back, daring Chanma to repeat what he just said directly to his face. With unwavering confidence, Chanma turns to face Teacher Gan and criticizes his teaching methods as narrow-minded and outdated. On the brink of losing control, Teacher Gan challenges Chanma to refute his viewpoints in front of the entire class. Teacher Gan loudly proclaims that if Chanma can prove his teachings wrong, he will resign immediately and never teach again. Chanma counters by pointing out that the 3-to-1 ratio of strength to physique prescribed for the Berserker class is fundamentally flawed. Picking up a piece of chalk, Chanma begins illustrating his argument on the blackboard with precise calculations. As Chanma's explanation unfolds, the students in the classroom realize that he is correct and spot glaring errors in Teacher Gan's teachings. Chanma further critiques the claim that attack speed is less important than critical rate, arguing that this notion is also flawed. After presenting his evidence, Chanma turns to address the class, giving a brief yet impactful lecture to solidify his points. Having finished his demonstration, Chanma asks Teacher Gan if there is anything else in his teachings that needs to be corrected. Unable to handle the humiliation, Teacher Gan collapses to the ground, utterly shaken that a first-year student outperformed him. At that moment, other student union members enter the classroom, accusing Lin Bing of insulting the entrance exam champion and ordering him to follow them. Two students step forward, grabbing Lin Bing by the arms to escort him out of the classroom. As he is dragged away, Lin Bing screams in frustration, vowing revenge against Chanma for his humiliation. Within hours, news spreads across the university about Lin Bing's suspension for offending Chanma and Teacher Gan's resignation. Walking beside Chanma, Director Lei expresses his admiration, acknowledging that Chanma is truly exceptional. Director Lei assures Chanma not to worry, explaining that Lin Bing and his associates were already under President Ling's scrutiny. Hearing the name Ling, Chanma is suddenly struck by a wave of anxiety, recalling that Ruoshi also shares the surname Ling. He convinces himself that it must be a coincidence, reasoning that many people in the world could have the same surname. Entering the office, Chanma is greeted warmly by President Ling. Chanma immediately recognizes President Ling as the elderly man he saw training during his first day at the university. Feeling reassured, Chanma relaxes, believing that President Ling won't be overly strict with him. Suddenly, President Ling releases a terrifying aura, and although it washes over Chanma, he remains completely unfazed. Impressed by Chanma's composure, President Ling breaks into a smile, acknowledging his strength. President Ling informs Chanma that he is aware of his interactions with the faculties and mentions he has a question for him. He asks Chanma if he would be willing to become the head teacher of the university's most unique class. Smirking confidently, Chanma agrees, but only if he is granted full authority over the class. President Ling agrees to Chanma's terms and gestures for him to sit so they can discuss the matter further. After they take their seats, President Ling invites Chanma to make any requests he deems necessary, as long as they are reasonable. After some thought, Chanma requests access to intermediate-level alchemy blueprints. President Ling explains that such items require contribution points, but agrees to credit Chanma with 100,000 points immediately. At that moment, Chanma receives a call from Huang Tian, who excitedly announces that he has two pieces of good news. Feeling awkward discussing personal matters in front of President Ling, Chanma listens silently as Huang continues. Huang reveals that the first piece of news is that he has reached level 30, and the second is that he needs Chanma's help for his awakening mission. Chanma questions why Huang didn't seek assistance from someone at Blue University, where he studies. Huang insists that he specifically chose Chanma and asks him to send his location so he can pick him up. Overhearing this, President Ling expresses surprise at a level 30 student seeking assistance from a level 25 student and asks Chanma about his chances of success. Chanma, with a confident smirk, declares that his chances are 100%. Before setting out on the mission with Huang, Chanma decides to stock up on supplies first. At the Blueprint Museum, a staff member instructs Chanma to insert his ID card into a nearby slot for verification. As Chanma complies, the system announces his details, including his possession of 100,000 contribution points, shocking the other students present. Minutes later, Chanma arrives at the museum's third floor, where rows of blueprints are displayed in neat, organized sections. Browsing through the collection, Chanma initially finds only basic tier blueprints scattered throughout the shelves. He continues his search and eventually comes across several excellent tier blueprints of significant interest. As Chanma enters the intermediate alchemy section, he is astonished to discover 4 epic tier blueprints. The blueprints include the elixir of mage blood, limited invulnerability, purification, and the elixir of ancestry. After careful consideration, Qianma selects the purification blueprint, which can eliminate all basic tier abnormal statuses upon consumption. Extending his hand toward the blueprint, Qianma instructs the system to transform it, and moments later, it successfully converts into a passive purification skill. The purification passive lets Qianma automatically generate a buff that removes all basic tier abnormal statuses, leaving him thrilled with the overpowered ability. Determined to check on Huang's progress, Qianma decides to meet him next. The following day, Qianma arrives at Blue Sky University and calls Huang, only to learn that Huang is in a meeting and suggests he explore the campus in the meantime. Huang abruptly ends the call, leaving Qianma irritated by his curt attitude. While walking around, Qianma notices a group of students gathered in a circle, watching something intriguing. At the center of the circle stands Zhao Debao, a 4th-year student, issuing a challenge offering 600 blue star coins to anyone who can defeat him. Intrigued by the scene, Qianma approaches the circle and joins the other students to observe. A student from the crowd accuses Zhao Debao of exploiting his juniors for money. Angrily, Zhao Debao responds to the student, Xinghuai, asserting that all the runes have been clarified and challenging him to a 4 million blue star coin duel. Xinghuai pulls out his card, declares he has 6 million blue star coins, and confidently bets the entire amount. Zhao Debao hesitates for a moment but eventually agrees to the fight. The gathered crowd watches with bated breath as Xinghuai steps into the circle to face Zhao Debao. Qianma eagerly anticipates the fight, curious to gauge the skill level of Blue Sky University's students. Xinghuai immediately goes on the offensive, launching rapid bursts of flaming bullets toward Zhao Debao. Zhao Debao skillfully deflects the bullets with his sword while closing the distance between them. As Zhao Debao advances, Xinghuai begins to struggle under the pressure. Retreating slightly, Xinghuai discreetly retrieves something from his inventory, concealing it in his hand, though Qianma notices the maneuver. Without warning, Xinghuai hurls an iron grenade at Zhao Debao, catching him off guard. The grenade explodes in Zhao Debao's face, sending him crashing to the ground in defeat as Xinghuai mockingly stands over him. Claiming his victory and the 4 million reward, Xinghuai turns to the crowd and taunts them, asking if anyone else dares to challenge him. Amused by the situation, Qianma laughs aloud and begins to walk away, but Xinghuai calls him out, demanding to know what he finds so funny. Xinghuai accuses Qianma of being an intruder and insults him, calling him a random dog for trespassing at their university. Qianma calmly acknowledges he is not a Blue Sky University student and asserts he doesn't need permission to laugh. Xinghuai, enraged, calls Qianma an arrogant bastard and challenges him to a fight. Accepting the challenge, Qianma leaps into the circle and proposes a bet of 12 million blue star coins. Qianma presents his own card with 6 million blue star coins and property papers worth 20 million, daring Xinghuai to match his wager. The students murmur among themselves, believing Qianma, a level 25 vagrant, must be foolish to risk such a large sum. Smirking confidently, Xinghuai accepts the challenge, but before he can react, Qianma vanishes from sight. Qianma reappears in front of Xinghuai, driving his knee into Xinghuai's stomach with such force that 3 of his ribs shatter, sending him flying. A minute later, a student rushes to inform Professor Liao Guanyuan about the incident. The student urgently tells Professor Guanyuan that his son, Xinghuai, has been severely injured. Hearing this, Professor Guanyuan angrily demands to know who dared to harm his son and immediately heads to the scene. Back at the grounds, the students are awestruck by Qianma's overwhelming strength, having defeated Xinghuai with a single strike. Standing over the defeated Xinghuai, Qianma demands the promised 12 million blue star coins. Xinghuai pleads for a few days' grace to pay the debt. Leaning closer, Qianma tells Xinghuai to speak louder, then kicks him in the stomach, causing him to cry out in pain. Xinghuai shouts that he will pay but begs Qianma to wait for his father to arrive. Unfazed, Qianma remarks that he doesn't care who Xinghuai's father is. The gathered students perceive this as an insult to their professor and begin shouting for Qianma to leave their campus. Irritated by their hostility, Qianma challenges any student to fight him and force him off the grounds. One student points out that the prize pool has now risen to 38 million blue star coins, making it impossible for anyone to afford the bet. Qianma offers to lower the wager to 3 million blue star coins, declaring that the winner will take the full 38 million. A senior named Gong Fei steps forward, accepting Qianma's challenge. The audience cheers for Gong Fei, confident that he will defeat Qianma and restore their pride. However, their hopes are quickly dashed as Chan Ma effortlessly kicks Gong Fei out of the arena in just 2 seconds. Sighing in boredom, Chan Ma raises the prize pool to 41 million blue star coins and dares anyone else to challenge him. Just then, Professor Guan Yuan arrives and demands to know which university Chan Ma represents, calling him arrogant. Seeing his injured son, the professor orders Chan Ma to release Xinghua immediately. Chan Ma, unbothered, points out that Xinghua owes him money and insists the professor pay the debt before taking his son away. Agreeing to pay, Professor Guan Yuan asks Chan Ma how much his son owes him. Chan Ma replies that based on the arena's rules, Xinghua owes him a total of 26 million blue star coins. Shocked by the amount, Professor Guan Yuan realizes that 26 million represents years of his hard-earned savings. Despite his reluctance, he writes a check, throws it at Chan Ma, and orders him to release his son immediately. Carefully inspecting the check for authenticity, Chan Ma suddenly kicks Xinghua off the stage. Xinghua falls into Professor Guan Yuan's arms and begs his father to avenge him. And with that, Xinghua loses consciousness. As 2 students rush Xinghua to the hospital, Professor Guan Yuan turns to Chan Ma with clenched fists, demanding to know which university he is from. Chan Ma, ignoring him entirely, walks past without offering a response. Professor Guan Yuan shouts after him, accusing him of being deaf and demanding he answer his question. Glaring coldly, Chan Ma calls Professor Guan Yuan brainless and tells him to stop babbling. Enraged, Professor Guan Yuan charges at Chan Ma with his fist raised high in the air. However, he halts his attack just inches from Chan Ma, realizing that hitting a student in front of others could get him into serious trouble. Meanwhile, Huang arrives at the scene, surveying the chaotic situation. Students immediately surround Huang, complaining about Chan Ma's arrogance and urging Huang to defeat him. Huang gives an uneasy smile, regretting his decision to leave Chan Ma unsupervised. Addressing the students, Huang clarifies that they misunderstand the situation, revealing that Chan Ma is a distinguished guest he personally invited. Disappointed by Huang's stance, Professor Guan Yuan had hoped Huang would assist him in dealing with Chan Ma. Scowling, Professor Guan Yuan declares he won't let this matter rest and vows to make Chan Ma pay. With a sigh, Huang laments the trouble Chan Ma has caused and suggests they head to the second awakening examination room. Playfully smacking Huang on the head, Chan Ma points out that it's not him causing trouble, eliciting a sheepish grin from Huang. Overhearing their plans, students speculate whether the level 25 vagrant is the external helper Huang brought in for the awakening ceremony. In the Blue Sky University conference room, Principal Fei mentions that the list of helpers for the awakening ceremony has been finalized and asks for feedback from the teachers. Rising to his feet, Professor Guan Yuan criticizes Huang for inviting a level 25 helper, questioning the validity of the decision and demanding an explanation. Smirking internally, Professor Guan Yuan sees this as an opportunity to sabotage Chan Ma and settle the score. However, another professor counters, stating that he has personally witnessed Chan Ma's strength and believes he is qualified to be a helper. Professor Guan Yuan dismisses this claim, mocking the idea that someone at level 25 could meaningfully assist with a second awakening. Principal Fei silences the argument by suggesting a bet on whether Chan Ma will successfully aid Huang's awakening. A wide grin spreads across Professor Guan Yuan's face, confident that Huang will fail with Chan Ma's assistance. Eagerly, Professor Guan Yuan accepts the bet without hesitation. The opposing professor also accepts the bet, showing no signs of worry. Meanwhile, Chan Ma and Huang arrive at the entrance of the underground labyrinth where Huang's second awakening mission will take place. Chan Ma asks Huang to confirm that retrieving the Norganon artifact is all that's required to pass, to which Huang agrees. Leaning in, Chan Ma whispers a plan to Huang, explaining his strategy. Huang listens intently but looks unsure, asking if the plan might cause unforeseen problems. Opening the labyrinth door, Chan Ma reassures Huang to trust him and maintain a distance of 15 meters at all times. The labyrinth is a massive cavern, and within a minute of entering, Chan Ma attracts a horde of monsters that begin chasing him. With a mighty leap, Chan Ma lands directly in front of a boss-like monster. The boss, a level 34 elite, notices Chan Ma and commands its minions to eliminate him. Trailing behind the horde, Huang nervously follows the plan but remains visibly anxious. Back at the university, professors watch the scene unfold on a large screen in the conference room. Observing Chan Ma and Huang's unconventional strategy, Professor Guan Yuan accuses Chan Ma of deliberately sabotaging Huang. Even the professor who supported Chan Ma appears concerned, silently hoping the duo doesn't fail. Principal Fei, while uncertain, watches closely, curious about the outcome. In the labyrinth, Chan Ma shouts to Huang, signaling him to initiate the next step of the plan. Huang quickly turns and darts toward a different path, following Chan Ma's instructions. Simultaneously, Chan Ma activates his phantom cloak, disappearing into invisibility. The monsters, now disoriented, frantically search for a target but find none. As the chaos unfolds, Huang cautiously returns, observing the confused monsters and marveling at Chanma's brilliant plan. Back at the university, the professors are dumbfounded, unable to comprehend how Chanma vanished. Principal Fei suddenly stands, exclaiming with excitement that Chanma is using an aggro mechanism to manipulate the monsters. He explains that Chanma's invisibility and Huang's retreat have perfectly severed the monsters' focus, showcasing their flawless teamwork. Walking beside Chanma, Huang remarks that he now understands the plan: bypass all monsters and mini-bosses to retrieve the Norganon disc from the final boss. Chanma confirms the plan and clarifies that since the final boss drops a key item, they will inevitably have to fight it. Huang notes that the final boss is located behind a stone door and identifies it as a level 35 elite boss with a massive 16,000 HP. Chanma asks Huang if he is ready to open the door and confront the boss directly, to which Huang replies that it's the only viable option. Leaning in closer to Huang, Chanma begins whispering another idea, leaving Huang intrigued. After hearing the new plan, Huang asks if they can really pull it off, mentioning that no one ever taught him this in the Awakening Guidance class. Back at the university, the professors observing Huang and Chanma closely start speculating about what they could be whispering about. Suddenly, a professor stands up in alarm, pointing to the screen and asking why Huang is tampering with a device that is meant to be part of the exam scenery. After manipulating the device, Huang steps back as a small wand-like staff emerges from its center through a hidden compartment. The staff releases golden streaks of light that split into two paths, striking specific spots and activating the mechanism. As the stone door creaks open, Aileronus, the level 35 elite boss, appears and declares that Chanma and Huang will pay dearly for trying to uncover the secrets of the creator. Witnessing this unique method of opening the door, the professors express shock and awe, clearly impressed by the duo's ingenuity. Huang exclaims in surprise that the method actually worked, while Chanma calmly tells him to focus and fight the boss head-on. Clutching his massive sword tightly, Huang charges at the boss with unwavering determination. Upon nearing the boss, Huang performs the Phantom Blade technique, slashing in a cross motion that sends sharp energy blades towards the boss, dealing multiple critical hits. The professors cheer enthusiastically, smiling with pride as they watch their university's champion face the boss courageously. Observing from the sidelines, Chanma critiques Huang's slightly slow execution of the second technique and gives precise instructions for the next attack. Hearing Chanma, a level 25 fighter, giving advice to their university's hero, the professors begin grumbling and questioning his audacity. Meanwhile, Huang tries to process Chanma's advice but is interrupted when the boss slams its weapon into his stomach, dealing substantial damage and reducing his health by a quarter. Seeing Huang struggling, Chanma activates the Tidal Charm Soul Strike skill, freezing the boss in place and rendering it immobile. Seizing the opportunity, Huang unleashes consecutive Phantom Blade technique attacks on the boss, resulting in critical hits and an additional 20% damage boost. The professors discussed Chanma's incredible strategic acumen, with one commenting that his debuff skill was brilliantly timed to amplify the boss's vulnerability. Smiling, the professor who bet on Chanma reminds the others that Chanma not only topped the entrance exams, but also holds an SSS potential rating. Suddenly, another professor notices something unusual and exclaims, drawing the attention of everyone in the room. The professors watch intently as Huang delivers a decisive strike to the boss's core, reducing its health to zero. The boss collapses with a resounding crash, signaling its defeat and marking a significant victory for the duo. Witnessing this triumph, the professors' smiles grow wider, their excitement building as they anticipate what Huang and Chanma will do next. Principal Fei, observing the events with great interest, allows a small but proud smile to form on his face. Giving Chanma a thumbs up, Huang expresses his gratitude, and Chanma nonchalantly tells him to collect the items dropped by the boss so they can proceed further. Huang picks up the item, discovering it to be one of the fragments required to unlock the gate to the final boss. The two continue deeper into the labyrinth, noticing that the path ahead narrows considerably with each step. Taking charge, Huang declares he will draw all the mobs towards Chanma, allowing him to unleash his AoE attacks and clear them efficiently. Moments later, Huang comes sprinting back, shouting at the top of his lungs as dozens of bats and other monsters pursue him relentlessly. Equipping his staff, Chanma summons a void sphere and hurls it at the mob, annihilating them all in one powerful blast. Dropping to the ground in exhaustion, Huang gasps and admits that when it comes to dealing damage, no one can rival Chanma's overwhelming power. Impressed by Chanma's strength, a professor wonders aloud if there's any way to convince him to transfer to their university. The professor who bet on Chanma reveals that he had already tried recruiting him on behalf of their institution, but was ultimately unsuccessful. Back in the labyrinth, Chanma and Huang encounter three formidable formidable dwarfs, with a level 36 Dark Iron dwarf standing at the center. Qianma inquires if Huang is familiar with the dwarf's abilities, to which Huang confirms and explains that it possesses a fire damage boost debuff and a flame nova AoE attack. Qianma proposes this as an opportunity for Huang to hone his timing skills, offering to tank the dwarf while Huang focuses on dealing damage. The dwarf spreads its arms, igniting them in roaring flames, and declares that no outsiders are allowed within its domain. Feeling the searing heat, both Huang and Qianma shield their faces as they are afflicted with the fire damage boost effect, increasing the damage they take by 150 points. Utilizing his passive purification ability, Qianma nullifies the fire damage boost and charges straight at the dwarf with unwavering resolve. Transforming his staff into a spear, Qianma launches a flurry of strikes, landing multiple combos that inflict significant damage on the dwarf. Meanwhile, Huang focuses on battling the two other guard dwarfs, maintaining his composure despite the odds. Reduced to less than half health, the main dwarf begins casting its Flame Nova skill, engulfing itself in a fiery aura. Observing this, Qianma encases himself in an ice block skill, leaving Huang to face the dwarf alone. Much to his frustration, left with no choice, Huang charges at the dwarf mid-cast and successfully interrupts the Flame Nova with a well-timed sword strike. The dwarf retaliates fiercely, sending Huang flying across the room and crashing to the ground with a heavy impact. At that moment, the ice encasing Qianma shatters, freeing him to rejoin the battle. Frustrated, Huang yells at Qianma for purposely making him handle the dwarf alone and demands an explanation. The professors observing the battle note that Qianma's remarkable coaching abilities, combined with his strength, make him an invaluable asset. Qianma stands back with a calm demeanor, observing as Huang engages in an intense battle against the dwarf. As the dwarf's overwhelming strength forces Huang back a few paces, Qianma offers to teach him a new move to gain an advantage. Looking bruised and exhausted, Huang complains that Qianma is merely watching while he struggles to stay alive in the fight. Qianma explains that the dwarf's fire damage boost debuff can be predicted, and Huang can dodge it by reacting to the dwarf's arm movements. Taking the advice, Huang focuses on the dwarf's movements and notices it pull back its arm before pointing its weapon at him, inflicting 5 stacks of the fire damage boost debuff. Panting heavily, Huang acknowledges that he did see the dwarf pull its arm back slightly before activating the debuff. Qianma instructs Huang to use Ripple Slash the moment he notices the dwarf pulling back its arm, allowing him to resist the incoming debuff. As the dwarf pulls back its arm once again, Huang attempts Ripple Slash but is slightly too late to execute the move in time. Hit by the fire damage boost, Huang takes significantly more damage and is now afflicted with 6 stacks of the debuff. Huang tries repeatedly to counter the debuff, but each time he is milliseconds late and ends up receiving the debuff hit. The professors watching begin to doubt that with his speed, Huang will not be able to perfect time the Ripple Slash. By now, Huang has been inflicted with 10 stacks of fire damage boost and looks exhausted, kneeling on one knee. Trying to motivate him, Qianma urges Huang to stay calm and focused, warning that with the current debuff stacks, the dwarf could defeat him in a single move. Realizing the severity of the situation, Huang fixes his eyes on the dwarf and lunges at it just as it prepares to use the fire damage boost again. Swiftly slashing his sword, Huang successfully nullifies the flames of the debuff coming toward him, surprising even himself. Feeling a surge of confidence after nullifying the fire damage boost, Huang allows himself a small smile. However, Qianma reminds him not to get overconfident and challenges him to nullify the debuff 10 more times before he steps in to help. Determined to prove himself, Huang continues using Ripple Slash, managing to nullify the fire damage boost debuff multiple times in succession. Pleased with Huang's improvement, Qianma decides to join the fight, pointing his staff at the dwarf and firing void spheres. The void spheres bombard the dwarf, resulting in a massive explosion that echoes throughout the battlefield. As the dust settles, it reveals the defeated dwarf sprawled lifelessly on the ground. Collecting the key fragment, Qianma turns to Huang and asks how he feels, to which Huang cheerfully replies that he feels much stronger now. Meanwhile, the professors, having watched the fight unfold, are even more impressed by how effectively Qianma motivates and teaches Huang during battle. Back in the labyrinth, the pair arrives at the door that leads to the final boss's chamber, noticing 2 keyholes carved into the wall. Simultaneously, they insert the key fragments into the holes, triggering the massive stone doors to part and slowly swing open. Entering the room, Huang and Qianma spot the final boss surrounded by dozens of statues, likely dormant minions awaiting activation. Huang explains that the final boss will summon 5 statues to join the fight every 10 seconds, and that at 50% HP, it will animate all the statues in the room. Qianma, unfazed, smiles and reveals his plan, confidently telling Huang that they can handle it without any elaborate strategy. Hearing this outrageous plan to simply rush and kill the boss, Huang yells in disbelief, questioning if Chanma is serious. Remaining calm, Chanma explains that they need to focus on defeating the boss quickly while maintaining control over their attack rhythm. After reflecting on Chanma's logic, Huang finally understands the straightforward yet risky strategy they are about to employ. Preparing for the intense fight ahead, Chanma begins applying buffs from various professions, utilizing his versatility as a vagrant. Observing this, the professors remark on the unique advantage of the vagrant profession, which allows for a wide range of buffs and skills. Huang is momentarily taken aback as Chanma summons numerous pets alongside a cannon-like weapon, readying himself for the battle. Loading debuff-inflicting bullets into the cannon, Chanma declares that he'll focus on stacking vulnerabilities on the boss while Huang deals damage. Firing an electrifying flashbang capsule and a piercing bullet, Chanma ensures the boss is both disoriented and injured. The piercing bullet strikes the boss, dealing damage, while the flashbang explodes near its face, electrocuting it momentarily. With these debuffs in place, the boss now takes an additional 20% damage from all sources for 8 seconds and an extra 10% physical damage for 15 seconds. Commanding his summoned pets, Chanma sends them to delay the 5 statues that have just been revived to keep the fight manageable. Simultaneously, Chanma charges forward with Huang, and the duo unleashes relentless attacks on the boss, reducing its health slightly. Chanma releases the void spheres he collected from the dazzle marks, bombarding the final boss and dealing massive critical damage. Seeing such powerful attack, Huang comments that Chanma's damage is really impressive. The final boss's eyes blaze as its health drops below 50%, triggering it to bring all the statues in the room to life. The professors watching the fight note that Chanma and Huang are now in serious trouble, as one must handle the minions while the other fights the boss. Only Professor Guanyuan looks pleased, quietly hoping that this overwhelming situation will lead to Chanma's downfall. Back in the fight, Chanma inflicts more dazzle marks, generating multiple void spheres that he sends bombarding the boss, reducing its HP to 0. This causes the final boss to explode into rubble as it's finally defeated. Huang collapses to the ground, unable to stand from exhaustion, breathing heavily with relief. The professors are left stunned, unable to believe that Chanma successfully led Huang to victory. Principal Fei declares that Oracle University is destined to rise in rank as they have Chanma. With the outcome of the battle now decided, Principal Fei sternly instructs Professor Guanyuan and the other professor to resolve their differences. Dropping to his knees in shame, Professor Guanyuan admits his wrongdoing and acknowledges that he misjudged Chanma. Principal Fei then demands Professor Guanyuan clarify the events that transpired a few hours ago at the fighting ring. Hearing this, Professor Guanyuan becomes visibly nervous, realizing that his conflict with Chanma must have already reached Principal Fei's ears. In desperation, he falls to the ground, begging Principal Fei for forgiveness and claiming that his actions were driven by concern for his only child. Observing this, the other professors piece together the reason behind Professor Guanyuan's earlier hostility toward Chanma, realizing it was fueled by a desire for revenge. Principal Fei declares that Professor Guanyuan must submit his resignation letter by the following day and orders the guards to escort him away. As the guards lead him out of the hall, Professor Guanyuan continues pleading tearfully, begging Principal Fei for mercy. Meanwhile, back in the labyrinth, Huang gets promoted to Sword Saint after successfully completing his second awakening mission, while Chanma's rank is upgraded to SS rank and he levels up to 27. Looking satisfied, Huang remarks on the quality of the rewards and cheerfully notes that he has just leveled up to 31. Chanma shares his excitement, expressing his joy at gaining so much experience and leveling up by 2 levels in one go. Allocating all 12 of his newly earned attribute points to strength, Chanma's overall battle power climbs to 28,000. Edging closer to 30,000. Opening the diamond treasure chest, Chanma obtains excellent grade equipment, Venomous Shoulders, which can immobilize enemies for 5 seconds by firing a giant net. Delighted by the acquisition, Chanma's face lights up with a wide smile as he envisions its potential in battle. He imagines using the Venomous Shoulders to trap groups of monsters and then finishing them off with his void spheres in a single devastating attack. Meanwhile, Huang, who also received high-level equipment, appears thrilled and eagerly asks Chanma to show him what he obtained. Upon seeing the venomous shoulders, Huang is left speechless, exclaiming that it is a second awakening tier item. Proudly pointing out his level, Huang declares that he has officially graduated from Blue Sky University and asks Chanma about his future plans. Chanma calmly responds that he will reveal his plans after completing his own second awakening, just as Huang has. The next day, news of Huang's record-breaking second awakening results spreads across the school, becoming the talk of all the students. Meanwhile, Chanma and Huang are summoned to Principal Fei's office, where they engage in conversation with him and the professor who had bet on Chanma. Chanma inquires if the purpose of their meeting is to persuade him to transfer to Blue Sky University. The professor confirms their intent to recruit Chanma, citing his outstanding performance in the labyrinth as their motivation. He further explains that Principal Fei is willing to meet any conditions Chanma sets if he agrees to join Blue Sky University. However, Chanma flatly declines the offer, providing no additional explanation. He firmly states that he chose Oracle University for himself and has no intention of changing that decision. Placing a reassuring hand on Huang's shoulder, Chanma vows that as long as Blue Sky University avoids conflict with Oracle University, the two can coexist peacefully, swearing this on Huang. With a smile, Principal Fei respects Chanma's decision, assuring him that they will not pressure him further. Chanma then proposes an idea that could potentially benefit both himself and Blue Sky University, piquing their interest. The next day, in the second awakening exam hall, students discuss Chanma, who has just been appointed as an interim teacher to help with their second awakening. In his new office, Chanma interviews Lu Kuei, a berserker student, as Lu Kuei hesitantly hands over a small box and asks when he can take the second awakening exam. Opening the box, Chanma discovers a first-rate space cicada spirit item inside, prompting him to suggest that they can begin the exam immediately. Nervously, Lu Kuei asks if any preparation is needed, and Chanma sharply replies that he must either trust him or leave with his item. Flustered, Lu Kuei quickly apologizes, stammering that he trusts Chanma completely and agrees to follow his instructions. A moment later, Chanma and Lu Kuei head toward the labyrinth, while nearby students ridicule Lu Kuei, calling him weak and unworthy. Noticing Lu Kuei's distress, Chanma assures him that the opinions of others do not matter and encourages him to have confidence in himself. Lu Kuei explains that he had the misfortune of drawing a map leading to Demon Soul Mountain, known for its higher difficulty level. Once again, Chanma reassures Lu Kuei, urging him to focus and follow his lead. Over an hour later, the progress of clearing Demon Soul Mountain reaches 80%, shocking the onlooking students who doubted Lu Kuei's abilities. Inside the Demon Soul Mountain secret realm, Chanma is facing off against the level 39 final boss in an intense battle. Watching it off from the sidelines, Lu Kuei stands slack-jawed at the sheer strength Chanma displays. Within moments, Chanma defeats the final boss, completing the secret realm in record time. As a reward, Chanma receives a Starlight treasure chest alongside a significant amount of experience. Deciding to save the chest for later, Chanma plans to open it after clearing several more secret realms. Witnessing the achievement, the gathered students are left astounded, many now impressed by Chanma's ability to carry others through difficult exams. Encouraged by Chanma's success, the students scramble to gather valuable materials as payment for his assistance in their second awakening exams. Shortly afterward, Chanma and a jubilant Lu Kuei emerge from the secret realm, with Lu Kuei bowing deeply to express his heartfelt gratitude. Unmoved by the thanks, Chanma coolly remarks that he is merely being paid for his services and walks away. Later that day, a long line of students forms outside Chanma's office, all eager to secure his help in passing their second awakening exams. Spotting Chanma's arrival, one student excitedly shouts to alert the others. Taken aback by the sheer number of students gathered, Chanma mutters to himself, feeling as though he is running a store instead of teaching. A sleek, long black car arrives at Oracle University, and the students gathered in the playground immediately recognize it as belonging to Blue Sky University. Director Chen of Oracle University, accompanied by two teachers, rushes out to meet the Blue Sky University arrivals, visibly flustered and worried about the seriousness of the situation. Director Chen expresses his concern, stating that he wasn't informed in advance about the visit from Blue Sky University. The car door clicks open, and Chanma steps out, slamming the door shut with a firm motion. Director Chen is startled at the sight of Chanma and briefly worries that Chanma might have decided to align himself with Blue Sky University. A professor from Blue Sky University exits from the other side of the car, and Chanma explains that the professor is here to drop him off and to discuss a potential collaboration between the two universities. The two teachers behind Director Chen whisper quietly, speculating about what Chanma might have done to foster a connection between Oracle and Blue Sky University. The professor smiles warmly and tells Director Chen that Chanma Ma is an exceptional student who deserves to be valued. Turning his gaze toward Ma, Director Chen, still looking baffled, asks for an explanation of the unfolding situation. A few minutes later, Ma, the professor, and President Ling sit around a table as the professor details Ma's achievements during his visit to Blue Sky University. President Ling confirms that he had already spoken with Principal Fei and announces the alliance between the two universities, with Ma as the central link. The professor then conveys a message from Principal Fei, stating that Blue Sky University wants to appoint Ma as a guest professor. President Ling grows slightly suspicious, thinking that Blue Sky University might be attempting to recruit Ma as their student instead. He then asks Ma to make his own decision, and Ma, shaking his head, replies that he has no time for academic reports. The professor reassures them, clarifying that Ma won't be required to do any academic reports and will still receive a professor's salary. Ma decides to accept the offer, recognizing that having Oracle University and Blue Sky University as allies will help him establish his guild. Later, the professor leaves Oracle University, looking pleased and proud of successfully recruiting Ma. Watching the professor depart, President Ling turns to Ma and inquires about his plans moving forward. Ma explains that he'll spend the day finalizing the teacher improvement class, preparing materials, and heading to the Apocalypse continent tomorrow for a final push before his second awakening. Surprised by Ma's determination, President Ling asks him about his current level, and Ma reveals that he has reached level 29. President Ling, amazed by Ma's progress, grabs his shoulder and notes he leveled up from 25 to 29 in 4 days, possibly qualifying for the University Grand Tournament in 3 months. Curious, Ma asks President Ling about the tournament and what it entails. President Ling explains that the University Grand Tournament is an annual ranking competition where students with a 3rd awakening or below compete in the normal category, while those with a 4th awakening or below join the advanced category. With a confident smile, President Ling assures Ma that if he achieves his awakening on time, he could easily dominate the normal category and win. Intrigued by the tournament, Ma realizes that it could be an excellent opportunity to make a name for himself. The following day, Ma returns to Apocalypse Island and finds himself walking through the bustling streets of Thunder City. Suddenly, his system notifies him of a new message, and when he opens it, he sees that Ruashi has texted, asking why he has been away and why he's late. Carefully choosing his words, Ma responds that important matters kept him busy and then asks Ruashi about her current location. Ruashi replies that she is on a mission at Ridge Mountain and is close to reaching level 27. Ma compliments Ruashi on her fast leveling speed and guesses that she must have found a hidden mission, which surprises her that he figured it out. Feeling slightly nervous, Ruashi asks Ma what he would do if she told him that her family was arranging a marriage with a handsome and talented partner. Ma, staying composed, replies that he would do nothing and simply wish her happiness with her new partner. Not expecting such a response, Ruashi becomes angry, frustrated that Ma doesn't seem bothered by the idea of her being with someone else. Clenching her fists, Ruashi closes the chat window, fuming, and declares to herself that she won't agree to anyone her family chooses for her. Observing Ruashi's reaction, Ma shakes his head, thinking she is too naive and unable to take a lighthearted joke. Later that day, Ma arrives at the auction house, where he is warmly greeted by the manager. After taking a seat, Ma inquires if the manager has managed to gather any of the materials he had previously requested. Presenting a large box, the manager informs Ma that he has procured 4 of the items on the list. The items include a vial of Frost Spring, a bizarre demonic mushroom, a blood pottery jade, and a Shadow Moon Holy Flame. Ma is particularly impressed by the inclusion of the Shadow Moon Holy Flame, a rare and valuable item. With a stern tone, Ma comments that the auction house could have been more efficient in finding the materials, making the manager nervously defend his efforts. Cutting off the manager's excuses, Ma asks him to name the price for the 4 items. The manager, concealing the true cost, claims that the total expense was 1,000 gold coins. Despite having spent over 2,000 gold coins, Ma places a pouch of coins on the table and declares that he will recommend the manager to the higher-ups for his efforts. As Ma leaves with the box, the manager bows deeply, thanking him for his recognition. Out on the streets, Ma decides to visit a specific location, convinced that they might have the Yin-Yang Holy Seed he is seeking. However, before heading there, he stops by a horse stable on the outskirts of Thunder City and opens an underground cellar door leading to the Dark Brotherhood. Ma enters the cellar, walking through a dim tunnel toward his destination, planning to join the Dark Brotherhood, complete missions, and earn the Assassin Mask. The Assassin Mask has no special attributes but can completely conceal the wearer wearer's identity and personal information. Within the Dark Brotherhood, there are 8 ranks, with Liang being the lowest and Tian the highest. After some time, Chanma arrives at massive double doors and pushes them open with force. The doors lead into an expansive underground hall with high ceilings and hundreds of masked assassins gathered inside. Every person in the hall wears an assassin mask and carries a badge indicating their rank within the organization. Approaching the front desk, Chanma declares to the masked receptionist that he wishes to join the Dark Brotherhood. A group of unmasked individuals notices Chanma applying to join the Dark Brotherhood, remarking that he is a vagrant, not even level 30, and must be crazy for attempting this. Handing Chanma a token, the lady explains that the application fee is 100 gold coins and instructs him to report to the testing hall located on basement level 3. At the testing hall on basement level 3, dozens of applicants are gathered, each taking the test one by one. A woman named Quan, holding a whip in her hands, fails one contestant and calls for the next participant to step forward. Observers watching Quan whip the applicants comment on her moody and strict demeanor. Suddenly, Quan appears right behind those gossiping about her and warns them that they'd better have the strength to back up their words. Pointing to the testing machine, she orders the gossipers to take the test and warns that if their battle power is less than 20,000, they'll pay for their backbiting. Terrified by her warning, the men desperately apologize, promising they won't dare to speak ill of her again. Despite their pleas, Quan snaps her whip, sending them scrambling toward the exam machine in fear. The machine evaluates all 3 men, confirming their battle power is less than 20,000 and declaring them failures. Quan mocks the men for being so weak yet daring to gossip about her and instructs the guards to take them away to the water prison. As the guards drag the men away, their screams and desperate cries for mercy echo through the hall. Just then, Chanma arrives, and upon noticing him, Quan points out that he hasn't undergone the second awakening, is a vagrant class, and tells him to leave. With a determined look, Chanma calmly states that such details do not matter to him. Ignoring Quan's repeated insistence for him to leave, Chanma confidently walks toward the exam machine to take the test. Placing his hand on the machine, Chanma activates it, revealing his stats, including a battle power exceeding 30,000, leaving Quan stunned. Shocked, Quan questions how someone at level 29 can possess 30,000 battle power and demands to know who Chanma really is. Feigning ignorance, Chanma nonchalantly asks if she considers him qualified to take the exam or not. Admitting she underestimated him, Quan informs Chanma that he will now undergo a test consisting of 4 stages. She explains that the 4 stages will measure strength, agility, physique, and spirit, warning that the process might be life-threatening. Undeterred, Chanma expresses his eagerness for the challenges ahead, stepping into the secret realm entrance and disappearing from view. Moments later, another woman named Ing approaches Quan and asks how her selection process is progressing and if she has found a suitable candidate. Quan mentions that she may have found someone promising but needs to evaluate their test results first. Meanwhile, Chanma finds himself teleported to a beach and is momentarily surprised by his surroundings. Observing the area, he finds it intriguing that he has been transported to an independent space outside traditional secret realms. Suddenly, the system alerts Chanma that a massive ocean wave will arrive in 30 seconds, and he must withstand it without using buffs or elixirs. Realizing this is part of the 4-stage test Quan mentioned, Chanma prepares himself for the strength trial. 30 seconds later, a towering wave begins forming, rapidly advancing toward the shore where Chanma stands. Determined, Chanma braces himself, summoning his great sword as he prepares to counter the powerful wave. The massive wave hurtles toward him, but Chanma stands firm, gripping his sword tightly with both hands. Activating the sword's special skill, he swings it in a powerful arc, releasing a shockwave blade that cleaves through the oncoming wave. Transforming the sword back into an umbrella, Chanma uses it to shield himself from the water raining down as the system declares he has passed the strength stage. 2 gates materialize before Chanma, with the left leading to the agility stage and the right providing a lounge to prepare for the next test. Opting to save time, Chanma decides to tackle all 4 stages consecutively and steps through the blue gate. Back at the lounge, the 2 women notice the gate turning red, signaling that Chanma received an A+ rating on his first test. Smirking, Quan asks Ing what her strength stage rating was during her test, and Ing replies it was a B+. Mocking Ing's score, Quan chuckles, but Ing defends herself, pointing out she took the test at level 32 and assumes Chanma must be level 40 or higher. Amused by Ing's assumption, Quan bursts into laughter, prompting Ing to question what she finds so funny. Internally, Quan reflects that even she only managed an A rating, and if Chanma earns another A+, chance. He will be exactly what she's been searching for. Meanwhile, Chanma arrives at the peak of a snow-covered mountain where the system announces the start of the agility test in 30 seconds. The system explains that an avalanche will occur after 40 seconds, and Chanma must reach the mountain's base without using a frame or slow effect skills to pass. Acknowledging the strict rules, Chanma notes that the mountain's 1,000-meter height and snowy terrain will make the task exceptionally challenging. Observing that the snow will severely impact his speed, Chanma drinks an elixir of agility to boost his performance. As the test begins, he wastes no time and starts sprinting down the mountain at full speed. His breath frosty in the cold air, he focuses on covering as much distance as possible before the avalanche begins. Just over 10 seconds later, Chanma notices the avalanche barreling down the slope, closing in on him. Drawing his staff, he casts an ice wall behind him, causing massive barriers to rise from the ground and temporarily halt the avalanche. However, the overwhelming force of the avalanche begins to shatter his ice wall, forcing Chanma to adjust his strategy. Leaping forward, he plunges downhill, accelerating like a stone dropped from a great height. Nearing the mountain's base at an alarming speed, Chanma realizes that crashing at this velocity would be fatal. Switching his weapon to spear form, he rotates it like helicopter blades and uses it to control his descent along the slope. Upon reaching the foot of the mountain, Chanma shoots a grappling hook at a nearby branch, swinging gracefully and landing on his feet. Smirking victoriously, he remarks that nothing can rival his speed as the system declares he has passed the agility stage with another A+ rating. As before, 2 more doors appear before Chanma, offering him the choice to either advance to the next stage or return to prepare. At the main entrance, the portal's color shifts again, signaling that Chanma has received another A+ rating. With an impressed smile, Quan exclaims that Chanma has earned 2 consecutive A+ ratings and declares him the perfect candidate she has been seeking. Ing, however, believes Chanma is doomed now that he has caught Quan's attention, calling her a nutcase. Chanma steps into an underground lava cave for the physique stage, and the moment his foot touches the ground, a stack of burning effect is applied, making him lift his leg instinctively. Observing the searing hot ground, Chanma notes that his HP is currently at 3,980 and realizes he won't last a minute if he moves forward recklessly. To test if his HP depletes only while in direct contact with the lava or simply by entering the area, he decides to leap forward. Equipping his grappling hook, he shoots it upward toward the ceiling, securing it onto one of the walls. Using the rope, he swings back to the starting position, landing on his knees before steadying himself. Standing up, he confirms that his HP only dropped when he directly stepped on the lava, and while airborne, it remained unaffected. Using this observation to his advantage, he activates the aerial stage, equips his voyage boots, and consumes an elixir of agility. Fully prepared, he pushes off the ground with immense force, soaring high into the air. In a single jump, he covers several meters and uses the grappling hook to propel himself even farther forward. After traveling 600 meters, he lands on the lava-covered ground, receiving 2 stacks of burning and reducing his HP by 200. Pointing his staff forward, he summons a massive ice wall, quickly jumping on top of it and sprinting forward. As the ice wall splits in 2 and begins to collapse, Chanma leaps onto the remaining section. The ice starts to melt rapidly, releasing a dense cloud of water vapor into the air. With only 700 meters left to the destination, Chanma switches his staff to its gun form, firing it at the ice block to propel himself high into the air with the back thrust. While airborne, he uses the mechanic's signature skill to summon an air combat mech. Activating the Heaven's Net skill, Chanma shoots a net toward the mech, capturing it midair. Using the net like a gliding rope, he swings across the lava terrain, landing safely on the other side. Just as the mech explodes in the air, Chanma grins triumphantly, noting that he only lost 200 HP during the stage. The system congratulates him on clearing the physique stage, awarding him an overall rating of A++ as 2 more doors appear. Back at the main entrance, the portal changes to a horrifying shade of red, startling Ing, who has never seen such a color before. Turning to Quan, Ing asks who this person is, but Quan simply shakes her head, admitting she knows little except that the individual is level 29. Hearing this, Ing is completely stunned, her mouth dropping open in shock. She suggests reporting this monstrous individual to the higher-ups, pointing out that his performance likely qualifies him for the 5th Chi rank. Quan disagrees, fearing that if they report Chanma, someone might snatch him away, declaring she won't let him slip through her fingers. Looking concerned, Ying warns that if the higher-ups discover Chanma later, the consequences will be severe. Quan, however, asserts that she is willing to do whatever it takes. Realizing that Quan is impossible to reason with, Ying turns to leave, declaring she will pretend she saw nothing. Meanwhile, Chanma arrives at a massive library, which serves as his final test. The system explains that the library is a maze with only one exit, requiring Chanma to use his spirit power to navigate and escape. From an aerial perspective, the maze appears incredibly complex and intricate. Having never used his spirit power properly before, Chanma begins to panic, knowing his spirit is essentially a blank slate. Despite this, he twists his mouth into a grin, confident he has a way to bypass the challenge entirely. Equipping the phantom clock, he activates its invisibility effect and starts laughing as he realizes he can pass through solid walls. Chanma explains that the invisibility effect of the phantom clock has a bug, allowing it to disregard terrain like these rows of bookshelves. Exploiting this broken ability, he navigates the maze with ease, reaching the exit effortlessly. The system rewards him with another A++ rating and grants him loads of experience, promoting him to Chi rank 5 as he levels up to 30. Clenching his fist in satisfaction, Chanma notes that all he needs now is the Yin-Yang Holy Silk to prepare for his class change. The system congratulates him on reaching level 30 and activates a second awakening special mission to clear an intermediate grade secret realm with an SSS rank, advancing to the Soulbinder class. In the lobby, the gathered candidates are shocked to learn Chanma earned an A++ rating, a level of achievement they didn't know existed. Quan, however, orders the guards to lock up all candidates who haven't started their tests yet. The candidates shout in protest, calling it unfair that they are being detained without a chance to compete. Quan's reasoning is to ensure no one outside learns about Chanma, wanting to keep him a secret. She instructs the guards to offer the detained candidates 100 gold each as a bribe to ensure their silence. Shortly after, Chanma casually steps out of the portal. Seeing him, Quan approaches, clapping her hands and congratulating him on his remarkable performance. With a sly laugh, Chanma modestly claims he just got lucky, while inwardly wondering why Quan's attitude toward him has shifted so suddenly. Spotting Chanma's new badge, Quan realizes he has officially achieved Chi rank 5. Turning away, Quan instructs Chanma to follow her, declaring they will now be colleagues. While Chanma finds Quan's behavior suspicious, he decides to follow her to uncover her intentions. Handing over Chanma the official clothes designated for a Chi rank assassin, Quan informs him that if he wants to accept assassination missions, he must visit the Basement 2's mission hall. Feeling slightly uneasy with Quan leaning so close, Chanma nervously ruffles his hair and assures her that he understands. Standing up decisively, Chanma announces that he will take his leave, but Quan grabs his hand and tells him to wait. She explains that there is something else she needs his help with and promises to share a highly confidential piece of information if he vows not to tell anyone. With a confident tone, Chanma reassures Quan that her secret is safe with him. Quan reveals that she accidentally discovered a mysterious cave that houses an ancient altar, which appears to have been untouched and undiscovered until now. Hearing her words, Chanma speculates that Quan might have been unable to activate the altar herself due to a lack of strength or ability. Acting surprised, Chanma questions if it truly is a hidden altar, and Quan confirms it while adding that the altar is guarded by a demonic beast she couldn't defeat. Recalling details from his past life, Chanma concludes that Quan must be referring to the altar hidden behind the waterfall at the drifting cloud stream. Although Quan didn't mention it, Chanma knows the demonic beast guarding the altar is level 40, realizing that Quan prioritizes her goals over others' safety. Choosing to go along with her plan for now, Chanma thanks Quan for trusting him with this information and agrees to help her. Smiling brightly, Quan grabs Chanma's hand and pulls him along, insisting they head out to the location immediately. After traveling for several hours, the duo finally arrives at the drifting cloud stream. Quan points toward the waterfall, explaining that the ancient altar is behind it, and instructs Chanma to go in and defeat the beast while she keeps watch outside. Pretending to look uneasy, Chanma hesitates and expresses doubt about his ability to defeat the monster, asking if Quan knows its exact level so he can be better prepared. Resting a reassuring hand on his shoulder, Quan admits she hasn't gone far into the cave and doesn't know the monster's exact level, but insists it isn't very strong. To further ease his nerves, Quan offers Chanma her life-saving tool, pulling out an oval-shaped gem and handing it to him in case of an emergency. Accepting the gem with a smile, Chanma declares that he will do his best to complete the mission and not let her down. With that, he leaps toward the waterfall, disappearing behind it as Quan watches with a sly smirk, believing she has successfully tricked him. A moment later, Chanma emerges on the other side of the waterfall, surveying his surroundings. Grinning to himself, he notes that the azure pearl Quan gave him is an incredibly valuable item and silently declares it as his own. tombstone. Reaching into his belongings, Chanmo retrieves the leper mask he acquired earlier and puts it on, transforming into a member of the gnome race. Recalling his knowledge of the altar's guardian, Chanmo is confident he can defeat the level 40 rock rat, but he doesn't want to. Suddenly, the massive rock rat reveals itself, its sharp claws glinting ominously as it eyes Chanmo with suspicion. Speaking calmly, Chanmo addresses the rock rat and claims that he, as a leper gnome, is a fellow creature of the Apocalypse continent. As the rock rat backs off a little, Chanmo asks if it's been trapped here with no food. Surprisingly, the rock rat nods enthusiastically, confirming its hunger. In response, Chanmo summons an assortment of meat dishes and offers them to the rock rat. Unable to resist, the rock rat dives into the food, its eyes sparkling with joy. Taking advantage of the distraction, Chanmo announces that he will explore the area while the rock rat is preoccupied. After a brief search, Chanmo finally reaches the altar, eager to test its power. Placing his hand on the altar, he prepares to unlock its potential and hopes to gain access to a second awakening skill. The system promptly offers him a choice of skills, including Tombstone, Outrage Break, Black Hole, and others. Without hesitation, he selects the Murderous Wave skill, and the altar begins glowing brightly, imbuing him with the new power moments later. The Murderous Wave skill lets Chanmo release continuous energy waves for significant damage, and he plans to make it passive after upgrading his system. Meanwhile, outside the waterfall, Quan grows anxious, worrying that Chanmo might have failed. Despite her concerns, she convinces herself that Chanmo couldn't have been defeated since she hasn't heard any cries for help. Back in the cave, Chanmo asks the rock rat if it maintains the seal outside the waterfall, and the rat nods in confirmation. Chanmo then casually mentions that he noticed the altar's energy seemed to have vanished while he was exploring. Alarmed by this revelation, the rock rat roars furiously and charges toward the altar to investigate. Hearing the distant roar, Quan assumes Chanmo must be engaged in battle with the guardian. Concluding that Chanmo is holding his own, she lets out a sigh of relief. Realizing the altar's power is depleted, the rock rat begins crying, and Chanmo suggests they stick together until the altar regains its energy. Chanmo also warns the rock rat that there's an awakened human at level 45 waiting outside, which could pose a serious threat. Both of them exchange despondent looks, realizing the dire situation they are in. However, Chanmo quickly devises a plan and whispers it into the rock rat's ear. Following the plan, Chanmo, still in his gnome form, sprints out of the waterfall, shouting for help as the rock rat pretends to chase him hungrily. Quan watches in surprise as the gnome and the rock rat flee the area, seemingly paying her no attention. Realizing that the entrance seal to the waterfall has been lifted, Quan dashes forward and jumps through the cascading water to enter the cave. Observing her actions from afar, Chanmo instructs the rock rat to return and reactivate the seal to trap Quan inside. Guys, we will be back with more. Meanwhile, you can check out this manhwa about an OP protagonist.